Hey, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Brescher here. Today, we're going to have a look at adding integers. And it's my goal that by the end of this lesson, we will all be able to add integers using one of two methods. The first method will be using a number line, and the second method using integer tiles. Alright, so let's get ready by looking over some academic vocabulary terms. We have terms like opposite, integer, and absolute value. These are very important that we understand what they mean so we have a better understanding of integers and how we're going to add them. An opposite or opposites are two numbers that are the same distance from zero on a number line but in opposite directions. Integers are the set of positive whole numbers, their opposites, and of course zero. And the absolute value is a number's distance from zero. So let's take a look at some of these. If we had a number like 3 here on the number line, its opposite would be the same distance from zero, which is 3 units, but on the other side of the zero. So it would be -3 would be the opposite of 3. All right. If we had another number like -5 here, its opposite would have to be the same distance from zero, but on the other side of the number line, or on the other side of zero, which would be +5. So basically, you're either going to change the sign, you're going to change the sign from a positive to a negative, or from a negative to a positive. Now, when we think about the word absolute value, that's a distance from zero. So, and it looks like this. If I wanted to find the absolute value of -6, that means how many units is it from zero? Well, a distance is always going to be a positive value. So we would count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's 6 units. Therefore, the absolute value of -6 is a +6. We don't have to write the plus sign though, because we know when you write the number 6, that means it is positive. Okay, let's do another one with absolute value. What would the absolute value of, let's say, 8 equal? Well, here's 8 on the number line, and we would have to count back how many steps to get to 0. And that's right, it would be 8. What do you think the absolute value of -4 would be? How about -9? What about the absolute value of 3? All right, it sounds like you've got it. I put a couple different number lines here so you could see sometimes a number line will count by 2's. And sometimes they'll even have number lines that may count by 5's or 10's. So you have to look at your number line and see what each space is, or how many places are in between each space, so you can graph whatever it is that you're trying to graph, or know how to use that number line properly to help you add those integers. Let's move on and start adding some of the integers. All right, here are a couple word problems I have that we will be able to solve by the end of class. If a shark is swimming 54 feet below sea level and it rises 19 feet to go attack a school of tuna, then what integer would describe its new position? And the next one, this is a real-world example. This morning actually, the temperature outside was -13 degrees Fahrenheit. By noon, it had dropped another 5 degrees Fahrenheit. Probably the polar vortex coming through. Then around 4 p.m., it rose 20 degrees Fahrenheit. What was the temperature at 4 p.m.? And we're going to use adding integers to solve these by the end of the class. Okay. Using a number line, we have our good buddy, well, I'm just going to name him Joe over here. And Joe here is going to help us out with adding integers on the number line. So you can see we got little Joe dancing around down here, and we're going to start him at his starting point. And I'm going to call this 0 point the origin. Okay, that's his starting point. When he comes across a positive number, like this first example, we're going to move Joe forward. So we see the number 4. He's going to move forward 4 places because 4 is a positive number. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we have a negative number, a negative 6. That tells us to move backward 6 places. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And wherever he ends up, that is our answer. So on the first one, we got negative 2. Let's try another one. See if you can recognize any type of pattern or something like that while we're doing some of these problems. Next we have negative 2 plus 5. So the first number here tells us to go, yes, backwards 2. 1, 2. And our second number tells us to go forward 5. That's correct. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So where did we end up? All right, at 3. So negative 2 plus 5 is actually equal to a positive 3. And we would write that just with the number 3. There's no need to put a positive sign because the number 3 already tells us it's positive since it's missing a negative sign, or it does not have a negative sign, I should say. Go ahead and try to do the other samples on your own. 3 plus 2. Maybe you can make your own number line. Ooh, we lost his head. And now we just have his face. Oh, poor Joe. All right. And use the other examples to help you practice. Pause the screen, and then we're going to go over the answers. All right, here we go. The first one, we had 3 plus 2, and we got 5. Okay? When you're adding a positive number to a positive number, then you're going to get a bigger positive number, or it's going to be a greater distance from 0. In the second one, we had negative 2 plus negative 3. When you have a negative number plus another negative number, that's like you're going backwards twice. So you're actually going to end up farther backward, and your answer is going to be a negative answer. It's almost like you were just adding them. 2 plus 3 would be equal to 5. But since it's negative 2 plus negative 3, we got a negative 5. Interesting. This next one, we had 4 plus negative 6 equals negative 2. Well, in this example, our answer was a negative. But when we look at this next one, here we had a negative number plus a positive number, and our answer was a positive. And finally, looking at this next, or the last one here, we have a negative plus a positive, and the answer again is negative. So what determines the sign? Can anybody figure it out? All right, you guessed it. The one that is the greater distance from 0, or has the higher absolute value. Like in this example here, negative 6 is farther from 0 than 4. So we know that negative 6, the absolute value, is actually going to be equal to 6, which is a greater distance from 0 than 4. That tells us that it's going to be a negative answer since it has the greatest absolute value. And we can see over here it is negative. On this example, 5 has a greater distance from 0 than negative 2. So 5 is going to determine the sign of our answer, which it was a positive 5, so we have a plus sign, or a positive value. And finally, over here, negative 5 is a greater distance from 0 than 1. So when we add these, since the negative number was a greater distance from 0, or had the greater absolute value, we know our answer is going to be a negative answer. Let's see if we can do these same problems using tiles. 3 plus 2 equals 5. I think we already knew how to do that problem, but we're going to model it with tiles here. Whoops. See if I can get I'm trying to get some of the positive tiles here. Okay, I think we figured it out. So we've got a positive 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to add 2 more. 1, 2. And when we put them in the bowl and we count them all, well, we have 5 positives. So we get our answer, positive 5. That was pretty easy. Let's look at the next one. Now we have negative 2 plus negative 3. So once again, we're going to have to move our positive and negative signs into the bowl and see how we come out. Okay, so we have negative 2, negative 1, negative 2, and we're adding negative 3. So 1, 2, 3 more negatives. How many do we have in all? Well, we have 5 negative signs. So we got a negative 5 as our answer. Let's try the next one. Now what happens here when we have the one number is a negative and the other number is a positive? We're going to go ahead and move in our 6 negatives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we're going to move in our 4 positives. 3, 4. Now, if you have a positive 1 and you have a negative 1, and you put those things together, you're going to end up with 0. This is called a 0 pair, because together a number and its opposite is going to equal 0. And we can just pretty much cross that out. Here we have another positive and another negative, so that's a 0 pair. Another positive and a negative, another 0 pair. Another positive and another negative, and that's a 0 pair. So what do we have left? We're left with just 2 negatives. And with 2 negatives remaining, that gives us our answer of a negative 2. Alright, let's move on and check out one more of these problems. Again, we're going to move them in. I'm going to try to speed this up a little. Okay, we can see we have our 5 negatives and our 1 positive. And here, if we match up our 0 pairs, there's 1 0 pair, and we don't have any more. So that leaves us with, this is our final answer, which is a negative 4 on this particular one. See if you can do this problem now on your own. A shark is swimming 54 feet below sea level. It rises 19 feet to attack some tuna. What integer would describe its new position? All right. So how'd you do? Negative 54 for below sea level, plus 19 for rising, and that gives us our answer of negative 35 feet, or 35 feet below sea level. Why don't you try this one on your own, and then go over it with your teacher or one of your helpers. See what answer you get here. Negative 13 degrees Fahrenheit is what it started out, but it dropped 5 degrees and then rose another 20. Alright, thank you for your time, and I hope this helped you out with adding integers. If you want some extra practice, you can go to my website at www.jbsaidweb.com, and under the Math tab on the toolbar, you will find integers and basic algebra. And there you can practice some skills that are specific to whatever skill you're working on. So, thank you and have a great day.